Okay, so students, what we're going to talk about for a minute is glazing. Think about some advanced glazing techniques for your blocks. So first we have our basic glazes. These are cone 04 glazes. These glazes at cone 04 fire to approximately 1940 Fahrenheit. When we're thinking about 1940, the relevance there is that these colors will be bright and they're the way the company wants them to be at cone 04, 1940 Fahrenheit. If we fire them to cone 6, they will look like this. This is our cone 6 chart. The difference between cone 04 and cone 6 is that basically cone 5-6, we typically call it, is in this range, approximately 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. You may also use these glazes. These glazes might have different types of effects, whereas the cone 04 glazes are flat. They're basically opaque, but they're generally flat. All of these glazes down here we use for a lot of our functional stuff and our sculpture, and they have variation. You may want to test them. You may want to look at charts like this, which show one glaze over another glaze. This will help you get an idea. So this one, for example, is 21 over 30. It will give you this effect. Now you will have to see, do we have all those glazes in stock? So we need to know that before. Then on our cart, which happens to be in the hall, this is a chart for most of the glazes we have in those larger containers. So consider that. We have the larger containers. These containers are only cone 5-6. They cannot be fired lower temperature. Also, these glazes will be brighter. These are generally brighter, happy colors. They're a little bit more muted at cone 5-6, our 2200. Okay, next let's consider glazing techniques. If you look at this large mug, you can see that here, this glaze, this white glaze, was applied with a dropper. So this dropper, we suck the glaze in and then apply it like this. These areas are not glazed because there's wax over this area. So I don't want, in my process, I don't want the glazes to touch that glaze. Also, you may want to use tape. You can use masking tape, sort of like this, and cut it to whatever width you want. If you can see me here, peeling this back off, this created a small space. Now when I peel that off, come on, it leaves a small space which will create a slight halo with the glaze. So this area will appear slightly glazed, but look a little bit like natural clay. You may want to create carving and use iron oxide to highlight that carving. Iron oxide, which is in this container, using these brushes, this will have to be stirred up, but this is a permanent pigment, just a plain pigment. It will stain your clothes, it will get all over everything, and it's a great idea to use it at the sink. This will become a dark brown. I don't need to use wadding on the bottom because this pigment will not stick to my kiln shelf. In my work, I use some other techniques that are similar. I might trace letters on and then wax over them to create a space. I might do something like this on the bottom of my work and then add wadding to raise the work up so that those areas don't stick. In prior block projects, you may want to look at things like this. Students have done some really particular clean glazing. You may want to layer glazes. This one has carving and then also raw clay. This is an example of adding glaze to a deeper carved section and then sponging that glaze off. It kind of saves you time, so instead of painting it in, you're doing it kind of messy and then sponging it off lightly. Then you could add glaze to the top raised areas too. So just consider that these are a few techniques you can use. in terms of getting to your level 4 glazing. I also do a lot of tracing. I'll do a lot of tracing of items on tracing paper. We started a new technique with either tracing paper or photocopies where we're putting clear tape on there so that as you press onto your piece, it won't go through the paper. I use a transfer paper, which is this dark paper. This carbon paper will transfer an image to your piece so that you can then glaze it in lightly. Consider your brushes. I've put out some nice new brushes, and those will sharpen up your glazing this year. So, those are a few techniques you might want to consider. Thank you.